Alright, so last time I was talking a lot about doing and the importance of making sure there are things in your life that you can act on and have as part of yourself, stuff that defines you, stuff that defines you, your interests, your actions, and purpose. And that's all really important to how you live your life. What I want to discuss now is how you keep that going. What I like to call momentum to that. And it's pretty simple. It builds a lot on seeing success, but also carrying through and believing when there isn't success. That's where people typically fall off, when the momentum dies down. And again, it's inferable what I'm saying here. Momentum just being, say day one, you are learning how to improve your penmanship. Let's go with that. Or your typing speed or whatever else you want to say for this. Day one, you start out, you learn a little, you practice a little, and it works pretty well. You can almost immediately feel either you have made improvement or there's going to be improvement. There's going to be that payoff. It's fresh in your mind. You're ready. You're still motivated to take action. Day two rolls around. I would hope that you stay a little consistent, at least for day two, and go at it again. And one of two things will happen. Either you will again find that progress, find that spark, be motivated to keep going and keep progressing, or things will drop off a little bit. You'll start to consider, what if I skipped tomorrow? What if I didn't do things until next week? I've got a lot going on right now. Maybe I should just push it off. It's less important. I don't need to do it right now. And that's what really gets you, in my opinion, is putting things off and then somehow expecting them to change. Because the thing is, with momentum, it will stall out. It'll come to a stop. It won't keep pushing forwards if there's nothing that allows it to push off of, right? Think of every day you keep making progress is another stretch of road that your car can then travel down. If there's no road, it's going to eventually stop, right? It's going to hit some brambles, get messed up with the bumpy dirt road. It's not going to work. Every day that you continue to do something and further that something, no matter whether it's just a few clacks at your keyboard, a few strokes with your pen, every day that you continue to do stuff is the day that road gets laid down, right? And that's really valuable because you can keep going. Your car still has room to go. And eventually it's going to get to the point you're going to reach that destination with your car that you were looking for. And ideally, if you do everything consistently and you keep yourself accountable, that should all be pretty smooth. Obviously, there's going to be bumps in the road. You're going to have to go around a few mountains, a few lakes, but you'll get there in the end. Now, the problem is when people start letting go of their momentum. They don't feel a need to keep it going, or things get in the way of it continuing. And I would say that second one is much more common than the first, and in fact leads to the first in a lot of cases, right? Because I don't think there's many people who just, drop something they're working towards, just out of the blue. I think there's a lot of times when you don't want to do it, or it feels insurmountable or impossible, or it would be a whole heck of a lot of effort to get things rallied and organized to keep progressing. And that's where momentum kind of stalls out, when there's resistance to what you're trying to do. And resistance in this case is pretty much any impediment to the action you're trying to take. It could be not having pens on hand, not having paper, your computer's not charged so you can't type. It can also be stuff like staying constant, tracing the same letters day by day, not working on anything different or new, finding anything to expand your learning and understanding so that then the original stuff you're doing is improved by default, by association with the new things you're doing. And that can happen in, let's go back to that penmanship example. If you just keep tracing the same letters day by day, you're going to make progress, especially if you keep at it, stay consistent, keep the momentum going. But you might not make as much progress as you think if you were to try other methods too. If you were to work on the angle of your pen on the paper, or adapt to cursive, see what that's like. Try something else, engage your motor skills in a way where they have to work differently again, and new connections are formed to better bolster your technique in general, thereby contributing to the original goal of just regular writing. It's a thing where momentum is really important, and a lot of people could benefit from keeping the car going, keeping the stone rolling, all that kind of stuff, but they also need to figure out what direction it should go in, right? Especially because sometimes the direction that seems longer is actually the one that gets you there faster, and in many cases, the one that ends up at the better result. So that's a difficult thing to just have in mind. That's not something that comes, I would say, particularly naturally, and in many cases is gonna really just be about the process of getting to somewhere. But that process has to happen in order to get somewhere. So that's where really momentum comes in again, making sure every day that you can, being honest with yourself to know that there are days where progress will be difficult and you just need to do what you can, but do what you can and don't give yourself the excuse of not doing anything. And when you've done what you can every day as consistently as possible, that momentum has gone through the roof. You're now very solidified in that habit. It's almost become a part of your identity. And that's another thing I want to quickly wrap up with is, and I saw this from some videos online that I think were really insightful, but the idea of, to achieve a goal, making it part of your identity. Instead of saying, and I remember there was an example from a book I read on reducing procrastination and fixing one's habits. And there was an example for smoking. And the idea was, if someone tells themselves, oh, I can't smoke, or oh, I won't smoke, that actually doesn't have nearly the same amount of impact as saying, I'm someone who does not smoke. There's a very key distinction there, obviously, and that's, one of them, it's an outside force. It's almost like something is prohibiting me from smoking, and that's just so terrible and unfair, and my goal in that sense is to smoke, but something's stopping me. Whereas the other one really contrasts that by saying, I am someone who doesn't smoke. My goal is to not smoke. I am engaging in that goal by thinking of myself as someone who will not and does not. Therefore, instead of associating smoking as something I cannot do, it's something I do not do. I will not do. Something that makes it so the quality of what you're looking for cannot be denied. And frankly, that's not even to be denied by others. It's to be denied by yourself. I think for almost anyone, the greatest obstacle to producing change in yourself is yourself. Especially for me, I can back that up with a lot of points in my life. And I think the main thing there is just sometimes you're not ready for change. Sometimes you have to let change come to you, or you have to be the person who's willing to accept it. You can be ready to learn and fully want to engage in learning, but sometimes that knowledge just won't come to you until you've gotten to the point where you can actually internalize it, which is additionally quite difficult. But the thing to be gleaned from all that is sometimes it may not be your time, and that's a difficult thing to realize, or that's a difficult thing to take in, but that doesn't mean it can never be your time. And I think there's still completely a value in pushing forward on things regardless of if you'll succeed initially, regardless of if it's something that doesn't always produce results at the get-go. If it's a goal you really are devoted to, and something you absolutely wholeheartedly want to follow and pursue, I think there's a value aside from success. Obviously, it's quite beneficial. It's the thing that seems to reinforce us, but what's your measure of success? Is it success of outcomes? Whose outcomes? Outcomes that others will see, or outcomes that give yourself the greatest joy and greatest happiness possible? Because I think it is an outcome of some kind. Otherwise, the effort wouldn't have any result. But sometimes it's just worth considering if what you're doing is for others or yourself. And it doesn't have to be both, but it sure should be one of the two. Because if it's neither, you're never going to follow through with it. So lastly, just to wrap up, momentum is what will keep you going. It's the more consistent form of discipline. Momentum is just believing in yourself as a person who does things. So therefore, you follow through with them without feeling forced like you have to do them. Without feeling forced like the action is against what you want, but instead it's working with and is in fact what you want. And then going along with that, momentum may be hard to achieve if you're thinking of success as something that is only done for others to see. Sometimes success is solely for yourself, and that is something that is extremely valuable and extremely hard to learn, but if you can, you'll strike a good balance there between doing things for others that you need to do and doing things for yourself that are equally as important, things you need to do, but ones that can't be influenced by others, that aren't at the behest of some outside force, that aren't dictated by anything besides what you want and what will benefit you. And frankly, in life, value others. But at the end of the day, you're the only one with you. So you gotta make yourself count. Don't care about what others think. And keep going after what you're doing. Because one day, you're gonna look back and be glad that you did. Be glad that you lived a life that meant something to you. And that's really all you can ask for.